Hello, my name is Beth Domkowski, and I'm coming to you from the Office of Admissions at Rowan University in Glassboro, New Jersey. Welcome to another edition of Rowan Confidential. I am here today with Dr. Ann Turner-Johnson. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Great. Just a little bit about Dr. Johnson. Dr. Ann Turner-Johnson is an international education researcher with a focus on universities in Western and Southern Africa. She has conducted research in the Côte d'Ivoire, Ghana, the Gambia, Kenya, Malawi, South Africa, Tanzania, Zimbabwe, and Zambia. The majority of her work has focused on rebuilding universities in post-conflict countries and how universities contribute to the peacebuilding process. She is currently working on a funded project investigating how universities employ indigenous knowledge to impact sustainable development in Africa. Dr. Johnson teaches research methods and higher education courses in the doctoral program in educational leadership. She has also served as dissertation chair and mentor to doctoral students in educational leadership on topics ranging from student affairs to educational politics in New Jersey and across the nation. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
So I'm going to ask you some questions.
Yay.
That our listeners are very excited to hear the answers to. What wakes you up in the morning? What's your inspiration or your passion?
Well, first of all, I'm a very lucky individual to be able to be a faculty member at a university in the United States. These jobs are hard to come by, and I am incredibly lucky. I think some of it was my own effort, but definitely a lot of luck, I think, that went into me being able to find a position at a university, particularly one like Rowan, that has grown so much over the years that I have been here. I've been here for 10 years, and it has just grown like leaps and bounds since I came here. And so being a part of that change, seeing the campus grow, seeing an increase in students and programming and colleagues at the institution has gets me excited every day. And I'm hopeful for the future and for the institution and my role in it.
So tell us a little bit about your research. What I've read and what I've seen online and in speaking to you, it sounds fascinating.
Oh, thanks for asking about it. I get really excited about it. So I started studying education in under-resourced countries, specifically higher education. When I was in graduate school, I did my PhD at Virginia Tech, and I had a very supportive faculty there who encouraged me to look at higher education in countries around the world, not just to become myopic and focus just on higher education here in the United States. As a result, I was able to conduct research in Kenya and Ghana for my dissertation, and that got me sort of focused on looking at institutions in Africa. Particularly at the time when I did my dissertation work in Kenya, it was right after their civil conflict, after the election violence in 2008. And at that time, a lot of my participants really wanted to talk about that and the work that I was doing. And so that led me down the path to looking at universities and how they recover from civil conflict and the role that they play, both the victim role and the perpetrator role. And if we could upend that paradigm, looking at institutions as playing a role in addressing and alleviating the conditions that lead to violence in under-resourced contexts. So, yeah, I love it. It's a very exciting topic.
So how long were you there conducting your research?
So I've been doing research in sub-Saharan Africa, Western and Southern Africa for about 10 years now. At the time for my dissertation, I spent a few months there doing my work. So, yeah.
And had you had any experience in that area of the world? Were you familiar with their what was your previous experience?
So I've been, I went to a women's college for my undergraduate degree, although I know, I'm talking about Rowan, I do want to hype single-sex education and how critical it has been to my development.
Oh, absolutely. I also went to a women's college.
It's one of the best things that ever happened to me. Where did you go?
Moore College of Art and Design. Where did you go?
I went to Hollins College. It's in Virginia.
Okay,
I'm from Virginia. And it was such an amazing experience, but I met a faculty member there who served as a mentor, I guess saw something in me. and which is really translated also into my own professional practice, by the way. But saw something in me and offered me an opportunity to work with her on a project in Jordan. So when I was 19 years old, I got on a plane for the very first time in my life.
That was your first time on a plane?
Very first time.
That's a long flight for a first time.
I know. And I mean, I grew up in very rural Virginia, first generation college student, first person in my family to go to school. So I couldn't believe my opportunity to do this. And so I worked there with her I did like a J term is what we called it. So it's a January term. And then after I graduated, she offered me a job. So I got to go work with her for about 6 months. And then that was sort of the beginning of my interest in the rest of the world, and realizing that, that there was more to my life than just rural southwestern Virginia.
Travel just opens up so many doors for people and opens your eyes to the way that cultures are around the world, and really gives you perspective on what's happening here at home as well.
Absolutely.
I would recommend travel to any student who is able to do it.
Yeah, me too.
What is one thing that you wish people knew about your academic discipline?
So I love this question because I think there are a lot of misconceptions about education in general. But I think that the thing I want to talk about is that there are a lot of other jobs in education besides being a teacher. Now, being a teacher is very important, and I cannot stress that enough, and how much frustration I feel at the way that we undervalue teaching and teachers in this country. But teachers work within an organization, and that there are a lot of different types of jobs within that organization. And I think that there's some misconception about that. And so one of the things that I'm really excited about is that we've started a bachelor's program in leadership and social innovation in my department in the College of Education. And this bachelor's program really focuses on developing those individuals who work within the educational organization. So one of the things beyond just the teachers. So, for example, I don't think a lot of people know that higher education can actually be a career path for people. So you don't actually just have to be a faculty member. You can be a student affairs officer. You can be an admissions officer. You can work in the registrar's office. You can work in housing. That there are a lot of opportunities in higher education. And of course, I don't like to paint the university as a business or as an industry, because I think obviously there are a lot of problems with that when we do that. But I think that if we think about the university as a place for employment opportunities, then that might direct our students towards thinking more broadly about education in general. So this bachelor's program is a great way for students to make the bachelor's in leadership and social innovation that we started in our department as a pathway towards a position within higher education, leading to a master's, for example, in higher ed or student affairs, and really building a career at a university or even in an educational organization like a K-12 environment or at a nonprofit that works in education. So I think that that's a misconception, is that it's just teaching, when in fact it's
so
way
much
more than that. Yeah,
it really is. And it's funny because I've been in higher education my entire professional career, in admissions and enrollment. And when I speak with students on the road, it seems that they only know the names of certain jobs, and they don't understand the other possibilities within education and within other fields in general.
Yeah. So I started in higher education working for a nonprofit that was focused on higher education at One DuPont Circle in D.C. That's where all the higher education associations are. And that's where I was doing my master's degree at the time in a completely different field. And it was like, wow, this is an opportunity for my career that I hadn't really considered before. And as a result, it led me to where I am, sitting right here in front of you. So
wonderful.
Yeah.
So your students, how do you engage them in professional activities?
I love working with students because of this notion of the co-construction of knowledge. Oftentimes we think that faculty are just teaching students or teaching at students, when in fact we're doing something together, right? And part of that thing that's happening together is me learning from them. So much of what I have been able to do in my career, in my research, and in my engagement with education in general has been as a result of learning from my students. But one of the things that I think goes sort of unacknowledged about what I do with students is teaching them to use research to improve their professional practice. And that's one of the way, I think the critical way that I engage students in their professional activities is how can you do research within your organization that can help you to address an everyday problem? How can you learn about that problem? How can you collect data on that problem, analyze that data, and then create a solution for that everyday problem that is evidence-based and that has the potential for some real organizational transformation and change. And I think for me, that's where my efforts are best spent and also best used, is helping students to understand how research can really lead to professional change.
Do you think that students coming into the program have a misconception about what research is or think it's something that they want to avoid?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I would think that's been part of my struggle as a faculty member because I teach mostly research methods. And I find that even graduate students who are adults don't like research or have misconceptions about what it is. And so part of what I also try to do is share my enthusiasm for it because they might see that I'm having fun and that I love talking about these things, and that might encourage them to not find it so scary.
Maybe it's the word. I don't know. I feel like some people might think of it as sitting in the library by yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Or sitting in front of a computer or just doing stats, right? Doing statistics. When in fact, there is a whole gamut of different research methods and methodologies that a student or a professional can use. And I think that that's part of my job, is sort of to open their minds towards it, to encourage them to engage with it, even if it does seem a little scary, and to let them know that, you can learn this. It is learnable, and using it. And I think that's one of the key things that people who teach research methods and students who learn it know, that you learn research predominantly by doing it.
And it can take you anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
Geographically, too. Yes.
Well, look at me.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it definitely can transcend discipline. It can transcend jobs. It can transcend anything because it's a skill set that can apply across the board.
So what is one thing that this field has allowed you to do that you either dreamed of doing or thought you'd never get to do?
Well, I do kind of want to go back to talking about what it's like being a first-generation college student. Again, growing up in rural southwestern Virginia, I really thought, and this is no, I'm not casting aspersions on what it's like to be a banker or to work in a bank, but I really thought that maybe that was what my life would be like, is that I would work at the bank or, in my little town or something like that. And I think that by going to college, by having different degrees. So I don't have degrees in the same fields. They're not like, I'm not one of those people who did this and then continued to do it through their doctorate.
So it wasn't a straight path?
Absolutely not.
What are your degrees in?
So my undergraduate degree is in religion studies. I studied Islam and Arabic. And then my master's degree is in conflict analysis. And then my PhD is in higher education administration. So I went it's a path that was not straight by any stretch of the imagination.
I don't think a lot of the best paths are straight. So
are not, rather. Yeah.
Well, you know what? Because the more things that you learn, the more you learn about yourself.
Absolutely.
And not only do you learn what you like and what you want to do, you also learn what you don't want to do.
Yeah, and I think that because I didn't go into higher ed, again, as a first-generation college student, I didn't go into higher ed with assumptions about what education was supposed to look like because I had just not had much engagement with it. No one in my family really knew much about it. And so as a result, I kind of did the things that I was interested in. Of course, my parents wanted me to be a lawyer, they thought that I would be great at that. But I was interested in other things. And so I focused on the things that I was interested in. And in the process of doing that, I was able to learn skills that transcended jobs, So I think one of the things, if I could just kind of go off track a little bit here, is one of the things that students maybe get really focused on is employability, right? I need a job and I'm going to get this job. And and I need to take these classes because they'll give me the skills that I need. But in fact, like taking an art class and doing an art project teaches you how to engage with problems creatively, right? Taking a humanities class and reading some great piece of literature teaches you how to critically think about things. And these are implied skills. They're not necessarily competency-based, which is, I think, sort of the terminology that we're using a lot these days. Is how do we measure that, right? And these are things that aren't measurable. And I think that not being so focused on what my outcome was going to be really gave me an opportunity to explore the things I was interested in, and in the end, get a really great job.
It's really interesting that you say that. I know somebody who does own a software company who does not hire people with computer science backgrounds.
Fascinating.
He hires people with arts backgrounds because he said anybody can learn to code. What he wants is people who understand creative ways to solve problems.
Yeah, I just think that's so important. And I understand why we've gone in the direction that we've gone in. I mean, I understand that it's so much harder these days than it was maybe when I was coming out. I'm 43 now. I think that, maybe when I was coming up, things might have been a little bit easier. I'm also a white middle-class now woman. I understand that there are certain things about my identity that do make my life easier that maybe not everyone has access to. But I think that beyond that is that this idea that, jobs kind of come and go, but these skill sets that you learn, these things, these soft skills, if you will, are ones that you always have. So
they can be applied to any field.
Indeed.
Yeah. So lastly,
yeah,
why Rowan?
It's so funny that you asked that. Well, when I was graduating from my PhD program, there was 5 of us who graduated my program, and I was the only one that got a faculty job. And I consider myself very lucky for that. And Rowan was the place that offered me the job. So for that, I am very thankful. But I stay here because I love all the opportunities that I've been offered as a faculty member. So, what I study, for example, probably isn't exactly what people in educational leadership study. But I've had this opportunity, this encouragement by administration here at the institution and by my colleagues to really do the things that I'm interested in. And I think that's wonderful. I mean, how many opportunities people get to really explore and investigate the things that they are passionate about. So I think Rowan has really given me that opportunity. I also love how diverse my students are. I think if I were working at a place like, I don't know, Johns Hopkins or, Harvard or wherever, I wouldn't probably get to see the diversity of students that I have, that's the jobs that they have, the lifestyles that they have, the lives that they lead, and how they identify themselves. And I think that that's really enriched my teaching, has enriched me personally, and also has enriched the ways that I approach research and think about my research. And I think that Rowan is a really great place for caring about those types of things and trying to expand their profile in terms of the students that they serve and the community that they serve.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We are so lucky to have you here.
It's my pleasure.
Thanks for coming in and talking to me today.
Yeah.
This has been Rowan Confidential.